Gotcha. Kaliko's on the line. Kaliko, welcome to First Amendment Friday. What's on your mind?
Hey, Lars, how you doing? I'm calling in support of Measure 80. I'm sorry, I'm outside holding a banner, doing some sign waving on the Burnside Bridge right now, so apologize for the noise.
Tell folks why they should vote for ballot measure 80.
Well, the reason why I'm in support of ballot measure 80 is because right now marijuana is super easy for teens to get, and it's not going to get any easier. Tobacco and alcohol are at the lowest point that it's ever been for teen use. So the only way to get to that point for marijuana is to actually enact some kind of regulation because drug dealers don't check ID.
So, Kaliko, can you explain how, if we allow the legal growing and the legal sales of marijuana in Oregon, how is that going to make it less available to teenagers?
Because then they will have to be sold through state licensed stores. And I heard you bring up about people growing their own earlier. Well, if those people are going to sell the marijuana that they're growing, then they have to be state licensed. So, in effect, it kind of is like the state growing the marijuana.
Well, except for this, Kaliko,
regulatory process.
how are they going to regulate the private growing of all that pot? Because it's one thing if all the hard liquor comes in through the state liquor warehouse, but how are you going to regulate thousands of growers around the state of Oregon who are growing big amounts and small amounts, and they can grow it any time of the year? They could grow it in the wintertime with grow lights. They can grow it in the summertime. How in the world is that going to be regulated?
Well, it's going to be regulated through the Oregon Cannabis Commission, which I heard you talk about. It's much like the OLCC, and we'll do the same thing. It will purchase and wholesale all of the marijuana grown by those licensed growers, and then it will divvy it out to the state licensed store.
But help me understand this, Kaliko. I know this thing is going to go down to defeat. It looks like in the polls like it's going to die. But if you have, say, how many growers do you think there will be in Oregon under this if it passes? Thousands or tens of thousands?
I couldn't even venture to guess, but let's say thousands, because that covers thousands.
All right, so say there are thousands of growers, and one's growing an acre, one's growing 10 plants, one's growing 100,000 plants. How big a bureaucracy is it going to take to go out and physically check on all these grow operations 12 months of the year? Because if a guy starts 10 plants and then the inspector comes by and there's only 8, how do you know what he did with those other 2 plants? They died. Well, yeah, they died and went into little baggies. Right.
Well, the only way you'd have to be state licensed is if you want to sell that marijuana. You're able to grow marijuana for yourself, but you're also able to brew your own beer right now. And most people will still opt to go to the store and buy their own because they can't produce the quality for the low amount that the people will be able to produce and sell to the store.
And Kaliko,
it's not really going to be. Go ahead. Sorry.
All right, but Kaliko, so we're going to skip past that one because I'm trying to imagine if a guy is growing for the state. I mean, you don't know what he's selling out the back door, but then there's the problem of the person who does go to wherever you're going to buy this legalized pot. So mom and dad, latter-day hippies, graying hair, they love the 60s. They buy a bag of pot, they bring it home, they put it in their house. How do they make sure that Junior isn't sneaking little bits and pieces out when they're not looking?
I would say the same way that they make sure that their children don't sneak cigarettes or alcohol. You do it because you're a good parent.
In other words, the kids will have their hands on that pot because you and I both know that there are kids who go and take beer and booze out of their parents' supply. So now,
Lars, I have more faith in people than you do apparently because I think that there are enough responsible adults that parent their children well enough to make sure that they're educated.
Kaliko, education is one thing, but Kaliko, how many people do you know lock their liquor cabinet at home?
I know very few. Very few.
How many do you think are going to lock up their marijuana at home?
I don't, probably not very many, but you know what? Marijuana's never killed somebody. Alcohol kills tens of thousands every year.
And you don't think marijuana is going to kill anybody? Nobody high is going to get out on the highway and get in a wreck because they're intoxicated.
I would certainly say that if that's the case, it's happening now, and we haven't seen the sky falling.
And
prohibition hasn't worked.
And would you expect with legalization we will see hundreds of thousands of additional new users who will then buy it because now they can do it legally without fear of they'll still have the fear of federal prosecution, but when they do that, aren't those people going to increase the number of intoxicated people on the highways?
I don't think so. I don't believe that there's going to change because people are already driving high and we're already catching them. And I heard you talk about ways to catch people while they're driving high. In the state of Washington, where it's probably going to pass, I-502 does actually set up a 5 nanogram per milliliter limit for active THC. There are tests that you can do, blood samples, that can say whether you have active THC in your system, not just the metabolites that we're used to talking about.
Kaliko,
the police are doing it now.
Every time you're on talking about this, you promise that you're going to send me that link that shows that you can do a quantitative test that's accurate enough to detect whether the person smoked it 2 days ago or this morning. And so far, nobody has sent it to me, but good luck to you. I don't think it's going to pass in Oregon. 15 before the hour, you're listening to the Lars Larson Show.